Country music has always been about the power of music to bring people together through shared experiences of love, loss, and camaraderie. The industry's illustrious figures rarely got along. Some of them could hammer their axes as low as their melodies. Allan Coe was one of the few country criminals who dared to speak their minds without fear of repercussion. Coe was still not content to remain silent, even if most celebrities his age choose peace over conflict. He shocked his 86-year-old audience by finally coming clean about which country music stars he simply could not stand. Biography and professional start. Akron, Ohio is the birthplace of Allan Coe, who was born on September 6, 1939. From an early age, music was an integral part of his life. He found pleasure in the music of artists like Johnny Ace. However, he had a complicated upbringing. His commitment to the reform school Star Commonwealth for Boys came at the tender age of 9, and he spent the better part of the following 2 decades bouncing around prisons, including 3 stints at the Ohio Penitentiary. There, he met Screaming Jay Hawkins, who encouraged him to start composing music. Coe decided to pursue a music career in Nashville after being released from prison in 1967, living in a hearse and leaving it parked outside the Ryman Auditorium during his street performances was in keeping with his defiant personality. His skill was acknowledged. His initial encounter with the music industry came when Shelby Singleton, proprietor of the small label Plantation Records, signed him. Beyond music, Coe had a variety of animals. Among his many offspring was Tyler Mahan Coe, a longtime member of the Outlaws motorcycle club in Louisville, and a future host of the hit country music history podcast, Cocaine and Rhinestones. The career of Coe's own music started off slowly. He began performing live in 1970 with Grand Funk Railroad in support of his debut album, Penitentiary Blues. His exclusive Nashville songwriting contract was secured by 1971. His songs sounded great when performed by other singers, but he never achieved commercial success as a musician. After becoming a popular songwriter because to Tanya Tucker's 1973 single, Would You Lay With Me in a Field of Stone, Coe ultimately signed with Columbia Records. Ricordino Ridicolo, his first top 10 single, was included on his 1975 sophomore album, Once Upon a Rhyme. The song satirically and humorously parodied country music cliches like boozing, trucks, and trains. Although he was never officially a gang member, Coe quickly became a part of the outlaw country scene. His rebellious and theatrical talents were on full display on his 3rd album, The Mysterious Rhinestone Cowboy. Influenced by singer Mel Tillis and his father's advice, who told him that masks allow you to be yourself behind a costume, he wore rhinestone outfits and a Lone Ranger mask. In order to stand out among Nashville's long-haired revolutionaries, Coe donned the showmanship. Along with other outlaw country greats like Willie Nelson and Juan Jennings, Coe was a major player in the scene by the late 70s and early 80s. Albums like Spectrum 7, 1979, and Human Emotions, 1978, were released by him throughout this time. Occasionally, they would use concept album forms that covered a single topic throughout both sides of the record. He wrote the book Shove It and Take This Job, both of which were great hits with Johnny Paycheck and were adapted into a film in 1981. In the early 1980s, when urban cowboy music was all the rage in country music, Coe stuck to his guns. He may not have been as popular as some of his contemporaries, but he cemented his place in country music history with his dedication to honest, genuine music and his daring, occasionally confrontational demeanor. The divisive criminal. Falsehoods abound in Allan Coe's life and work, making it difficult to discern reality from fiction. Most people thought he was on death row for killing another prisoner who had tried to rape him. However, a documentary filmmaker from Texas found out that this wasn't the case. Although Coe had a criminal record for indecent materials, burglary, and tool possession, he had never been convicted of murder. Coe never thought he had not played a significant role in founding the outlaw country movement, despite attacks like this. During an interview in 2003, he revealed, "The truth is that Juan and Willie Nelson and I played at an outdoor festival called 48 Hours in Atuka in Oklahoma. When we got there were several women raped and people stabbed. There was a lot of alcohol and drugs or whatever. I told my band, don't worry about it. We'll provide our own protection. At that time, I was in the Outlaws motorcycle club. I had my Outlaws colors on. I had my pistol in my pocket, and I rode my motorcycle up on stage while Juan was singing. I got off my motorcycle and went out and started singing with Juan. And then Willie came out and sang with us. There was a picture of us in the paper that had an arrow pointing to the pistol in my pocket, and another arrow pointing to where it said, Outlaws, Florida. The headline said, The Outlaws came to town. That's actually how it all started. Coe never compromised on his life, his music, or his lyrics, even if that kept him off the mainstream playlists and away from award presentations. On his 1977 album Rides Again, songs such as The House We've Been Calling Home ventured into non-traditional subject matter like polygamy, while If That Ain't Country, I'll Kiss Your Ass contained a racial epithet in the lyrics. The song depicted a Texas family in stark hyper-real detail, writing about his tattooed dad as veteran proud and his eldest sister as a first-rate. Such songs alienated some fans and critics who accused him of racism, something Coe denied vociferously. In 2004, he explained his view. I am a songwriter, you know, and to me it has always bothered me that actors in the movies can say whatever they want to say. Kill people, rape people, and do things, and no one ever accuses them personally of being that way. But when you write a song, and then all of a sudden you are being accused of something. To me, songwriting is painting a picture, and all you have to work with is words. I grew up with all my life hearing, lazy as a Mexican, stingy as a Jew, working like a or dumb as a pack. It's stereotype stuff that you hear growing up that immediately puts a picture in your head. Even his 1986 Son of the South album, in which Coe was depicted holding a baby while sporting a Confederate flag, was criticized, but he added a note on the back to clarify himself. I was born in Akron, Ohio, and I moved to the South when I was in my early 20s, which made me a Yankee rebel son. I'm not against anything or any place or any nationalities. Regardless of what you've heard about me, there are two things I am very proud of. One of them is my son Tyler, who is my firstborn son, and the other is my personal relationship with God. I am proud of that relationship, as I am proud that my son was conceived in Nashville, Tennessee, and he is truly a son of the South. In a second interview, Coe continued to defend himself. Anyone that would look at me and say I was a racist would have to be out of their mind. I have dreadlocks down to my waist with earrings in both ears, and my beard is down to my waist, and it is in braids. I was in prison with 87% black people. I hung around with black people, and I learned to sing music with black people. It was ironic that in prison the white guys called me I lover. And now I write the word me feared in a song, and I am all of a sudden a racist. It is pretty ironic. Despite it all, Coe stuck to being himself, not willing to allow controversy alter the raw, honest voice that characterized his music. Coe's battle with the IRS and losing his songs. Like Willie Nelson and Jerry Lee Lewis, David Allan Coe did his share of clashing with the IRS. For him, unfortunately, that clash came at a huge cost, his songs. Perhaps the greatest casualty was the publishing rights to his most celebrated song, Take This Job and Shove It. In a 2003 interview, Coe described just how crushing it was. All of my songs up to 1984 were sold in a bankruptcy proceeding for like $25,000 from the bankruptcy court, because nobody told me they'd been put up for sale. Basically, the IRS claimed I owed them $100,000. I was living at a place and we had a flood, and everything was destroyed. They knew I didn't have any records, any proof of what I did have and what I didn't have. So I just filed for bankruptcy. Willie Nelson chose to deal with them. I chose not to. I'm totally straight with them now. The only income I have is the money I make on the road performing, and from my new songs that I own. It was not only financially painful for Coe, however, but also emotionally. Music was his existence. And to awaken one morning to learn that all of the songs he had written through 1984 were lost, sold for pennies on the dollar in relation to their real value, was a hurt that he bore for many years. As Nelson battled through with the IRS, Coe admitted he just could not cope with the system the same way. Bankruptcy was his only solution at the time. The loss cut deeper than his commercial successes. Coe revealed in a second interview that even his explicit X-rated albums were included in the bargain. He explained all the songs on the X-rated albums were sold, I don't own that stuff anymore. I have nothing to do with that stuff. They have to give me credit as the songwriter, but I don't make 1 cent. So although his name will still be on the songs, the truth is Coe doesn't earn any money from them. For a man who breathed and lived music, it was one of the hardest realities of his career, losing control of his own work due to finances. Controversial stage antics. Allan Coe gained a reputation as a wild, unpredictable performer, whose stage behavior walked a fine line between performance and provocation. His live performances were far from typical, frequently combining storytelling, off-color humor, and even on-stage theatrics such as riding a Harley-Davidson onto the stage, all of which charmed some fans and disturbed others. In his earlier Outlaw days, Coe literally crashed into his performances, riding on stage on his Harley and cursing the audience with uninhibited relish. As one critic wrote, he'd holler, "How art you doing in this Tijuana's town?" and the crowd would thunder back at him. That sort of unbridled energy created a cult following, but alienated more conventional country fans. Some of Coe's mystique derived from the way he crafted his outlaw persona. He wasn't flashy, only theatrical. Costumes and masks belonged to his act as much as his guitar. Black rhinestone-covered suits, Lone Ranger masks, and even magic tricks appeared in some of his shows. He also defied conventions by being the first country artist to use an all-female support band, Lady Smith, something one might not expect of someone widely characterized as a misogynist. Nevertheless, Coe's flair for rubbing people the wrong way was not limited to attire and motorbikes. He stretched the limits of taste and decency. His X-rated albums, such as Nothing Sacred and Underground album, are riddled with profanity. Sex and slurs so distorted, they were termed by the New York Times as among the most racist, misogynist, homophobic, and obscene songs recorded by a popular songwriter. To some, these were winking salutes to satire rather than what many saw as crossing the line into sheer offense. Audience reactions often matched the chaos he offered on stage. One critic described Coe's shows as a rock and roll spectacle unlike any I'd ever seen. In one performance, the crowd was a volatile mix. Bottles flew, fans fought and made out, puked, hugged. It was a scene where anything could and did happen. Reddit enthusiasts who've attended his live performances tell stories such as, one remembered Coe chuckling that he told a heckler he'd leap off stage to kill them all. The venue was on a bar 20 ft off the floor. Somehow it made the night unforgettable. His wealth. Allan Coe's net worth has an interesting tale laced with hit tunes, legal issues, and artistic determination. The majority of sources currently estimated it anywhere from $1.5 million to $2 million. For example, Celebrity Net Worth places it at $1.5 million, noting his extensive career as a singer-songwriter with dozens of studio albums. Likewise, Scooper News states a range between $1.5 million and $2 million, citing decades of writing, touring, and hit records. Other estimates are more conservative. One website puts his net worth at closer to $1.8 million in 2024, primarily from music sales, touring, and royalties. Rich Gala and Asia Media Journal repeat the $1.5 million figure, attributing his earnings to album sales, live performances, and writing. There have also been much larger estimates. One suggests as much as $9 million splitting income from music sales, touring, merchandise, and endorsement. Another older estimate from 2016 even estimates his net worth at $10 million. But those figures seem less up-to-date and might incorporate wealth prior to his financial losses. A major blow to his money came in 2003, when he disclosed that all of his tunes through 1984 were auctioned off in bankruptcy proceedings for a mere $25,000 without his knowledge. That loss significantly reduced his songwriting earnings, one of his most reliable sources of income. Coe also had serious tax and legal problems. He was fined almost $981,000 and put on probation after pleading guilty to income tax evasion on income from performing dozens of shows annually. These financial blows added to legal expenses would have consumed any profits. Nevertheless, Coe refused to quit. He kept touring, occasionally performing as many as 100 times a year, and depended on royalties from new music and book sales to maintain income. The long road to 86. Allan Coe's life wasn't all about outlaw ballads and feuds. It was also one of survival by way of accidents, near-death experiences, and ride-or-die allegiance. In March 2013, Coe was involved in a near-fatal car accident in Ocala, Florida. He had run a red light and was hit by a semi-TR while broadsided. He suffered broken ribs, bruised kidneys, and head trauma as a result of the accident. Although the injuries were quite serious, none of them were life-threatening, which looked almost miraculous considering what his vehicle looked like afterward. He was kept in the hospital at Ocala Regional Medical Center for a few days. His family and medical reports indicated that drinking or speed were not considerations, and he was conscious enough to recover fairly quickly. Later, Coe shocked audiences by getting back on the stage. Within a few months, he played at the 4th of July picnic in Fort Worth with Willie Nelson. Looking back on the crash, Coe rumors that swirled when the news hit. He told the audience they had come on the news and said that I died before launching into the story of how everyone had quit on him, except his wife. "My wife's the only one that didn't quit," he said, referring to his band and longtime road manager walking away during that rough patch. All the while, Coe retained that spirit of defiance. He viewed the accident as another book to be written about. "Well, now I have an opportunity to write another great song," he stated. His wife also noted how fans would tell him his music got them through bad times. So now he had a new story to tell. Surviving the accident was an easy point. Whereas some of his outlaw contemporaries softened with age, Coe did not. He continued to play, continued to write, and remained committed to that no-filter approach he based his reputation on. At 86, he was still raw, still unafraid, and still the same uncompromising outlaw he always purported to be. Now let's talk about the people he couldn't stand. Juan Jennings and Christopherson. David Allan Coe never shied from voicing his opinions, even if they irritated some of the biggest stars in country music. Two of the artists he frequently argued with, at least verbally, were Juan Jennings and Christopherson. In Coe's opinion, both had sold out and strayed from the outlaw persona that he himself professed to be. The tension between Juan Jennings and Coe truly crystallized during Coe's Rides Again phase of the mid-1970s. On that album, Coe included the song Willie Juan and Me, a song that linked his persona with Jennings. Willie Nelson and Chris Christopherson, the core of the outlaw country movement of the day. But rather than forging alliances, the song created more tension. Jennings especially did not take it too well. Juan's longtime drummer Richie Albright once candidly characterized the problem with Coe in very blunt terms. He called Coe a great songwriter, but he could not tell the truth if it was better than a lie he'd manufactured. One didn't make him comfortable enough to stick around. The tension didn't end there. Accounts indicate Jennings actually confronted Coe in person. Coe had been going around Nashville bragging that he was the city's only true outlaw. That did not sit well with Jennings, who had made his career in rebelling against Nashville's conservative country establishment. Coe even poked fun at his alleged outlaw persona in their showdown, reminding people that Coe had once sported white buck shoes, a far cry from the tough renegade image Coe attempted to convey. As for Chris Christopherson, things were more a matter of reputation than outright confrontation. Coe included Christopherson in the same class as Jennings, referring to him as another singer who had sold out as soon as success found him. For Coe, being faithful to the outlaw ethos meant eschewing mainstream Nashville altogether. In his opinion, Jennings and Christopherson had sold out too much, whereas Coe was the real deal. This perpetual grudge demonstrated just how dedicated Coe was to his own definition of authenticity, no matter if it took it to the point of burning bridges with some of country music's greatest legends. It also served to illustrate one of the paradoxes of his career. He desired recognition in the same class as Jennings, Nelson, and Christopherson, but he would also berate them for not being as outlaw as him. That tension stayed with Coe through his career and established him as one of the most outspoken figures of the outlaw country movement. Jimmy Buffett. If David Allan Coe had one thing he never lacked, it was controversy. And one of his most bizarre and publicized feuds was with none other than Jimmy Buffett, the king of beachside country rock cool. What began as an ordinary issue about songwriting soon escalated into a public argument that demonstrated Coe's quick wit and unwillingness to concede. The entire debacle started when Buffett criticized Coe for plagiarism. Buffett claimed that Coe's song "Divers Do It Deeper" sounded a bit too much like Buffett's hit "Changes in Latitudes, Changes in Attitudes." That 1977 song was one of the biggest songs Buffett ever had, and it helped solidify his status as the chief of the so-called Gulf and Western genre. So it wasn't surprising that Buffett wasn't pleased about what he perceived as someone stealing from him. Instead of going quietly about mending fences, Coe did what he always does. He launched an attack. Instead of offering a defense or remaining silent, Coe penned a song that immediately shot back at Buffett, and he didn't even go out of his way to cover his target either. The song was simply called Jimmy Buffett. In the record, Coe taunted Buffett in his trademark frank manner, proposing that the two of them get drunk and screw. It was typical Coe half-go, half-insult, and strictly unwilling to oblige by the rules. While Buffett tended to embrace his good time, easygoing image, Coe's rebuke underscored how desperate the two artists were in personality and style. The fight didn't result in a protracted court battle, but it did provide another installment to Coe's lengthy catalog of business feuds. For Buffett, the episode probably served to solidify his perception of Coe as a man willing to push boundaries without compunction. For Coe, the conflict became one more means of marketing himself as the outsider, the rebel who didn't mind being unpopular within the business. In hindsight, the Coe-Buffett conflict is a classic demonstration of how Coe conducted himself throughout his life. He didn't merely defend himself, he doubled down, frequently using humor that walked the line between humor and offensiveness. Whether accusing others of selling out or retaliation against charges of plagiarism, Coe lived for conflict. The end, Buffett went on being Buffett, building an empire of beach bars, books, and hit records, while Coe on country music's wildest outsider. But this little feud between them remains one of the more unusual and entertaining stories in outlaw country history. Neil Young, David Allan Coe, wasn't afraid to cause controversy, and occasionally he did so in the most subtle, unexpected manner. Consider his shot at Neil Young, for instance. Coe didn't attack Young in interviews or with insults, but rather injected a sharp jab into one of his songs. On his 1974 album, The Mysterious Rhinestone Cowboy, Coe eds the door on debate with a raw and dramatic track titled, "I'd Like to Kick the Cavaros Out of You." This wasn't just a shocking title, it was a sharp retort to doubters. The song came in response to criticism of Coe's prison-based storytelling. When a Rolling Stone journalist started to probe the validity of Coe's statement that he had murdered an inmate who tried to attack him, Coe responded in this song, embracing the anarchy rather than recoiling from it. At the same time, Coe recorded Neil Young's Southern Man as a cover on his 1985 Unchained album. The original Southern Man is one of Young's best-known tunes, a plain-spoken condemnation of American South racism. By recording it, along with defending himself at the same time with that infamous song title, Coe could have been employing juxtaposition to comment on controversy, sincerity, or how songs elicit strong responses regardless of genre. So even if it wasn't a head-on rivalry, Coe's utilization of a song title with graphic imagery and his decision to record Southern Man during a period when he was being criticized seems like a subtle taunt. Instead of publicly lambasting Young, it's as if Coe let the music speak for itself, ensuring that he wasn't merely seen, but heard. This action was consistent with Coe's modus operandi. He was an expert button pusher, either by aiming directly at other artists or by having his own music walk the tightrope between tribute, protest, and taunt. And doing so made him not only stand out as a songwriter, but also as a personality who fed on drama, even or particularly when merely suggested through his choice of songs. David Allan Coe's story is one of sharp edges, bruised egos, and unapologetic honesty. He wasn't the kind of artist to sugarcoat his feelings or play nice for the sake of fitting in. That same fearless streak that made him clash with country legends also set him apart as someone who didn't care about approval. Whether he was taking shots at fellow stars, stirring controversy with his lyrics, or calling out what he saw as fake outlaw behavior, Coe showed that his career was never built on keeping the peace. What's interesting, though, is how these rivalries shaped his image just as much as his music did. By making enemies in the industry, he carved a space for himself as the ultimate outsider, someone fans could rally behind if they were tired of polished country traditions. Even when his words were harsh, they carried the stamp of someone who valued honesty over harmony. In the end, The people he butted heads with only added fuel to his legend because Coe thrived on conflict as much as creativity. Love him or hate him, his name became impossible to ignore. And that's exactly how he wanted it. And that wraps up our deep exploration into the wild, unfiltered life of David Allan Coe and the country stars he couldn't stand. His story is messy, controversial, and unforgettable, just like the man himself. If you enjoyed this video and want more stories about the legends, the feuds, and the untold sides of music history, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way you'll never miss out on the next big story we uncover. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.